and you will know I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you.
Why is storytelling so important in any art medium?
And here we are, dreaming in the open. Now look around, isn't this
So what do you think about when I say the word art? Filmmaking, music, sculpturing, painting, photography? What do you think about?
'Cause this is our world, and this is
All
our
art
time.
has one major thing in common. It needs to grab the attention of the audience and make them take a trip upstairs to their own brain and start engaging with whatever it is they're looking at watching. And ultimately it comes down to every different medium of art, whatever it may be, needs to tell a good story.
You and me doing it together.
So let's take Hollywood for example. Look at Quentin Tarantino and how he tells a story and how compelled you are to invest your 2 hours of time in his story. But how completely different it is than, say, Tahiti Waikiki, I think I'm pronouncing it right, but how utterly compelled you are to watch that film, laugh along and invest in that story. Totally contrasting in the way they approach the work. Take Chris Nolan for example and how his absolute no or very minimum CGI small scenes with actors and how he gets his story across amazingly well and gripping compared to say Christopher Columbus who directed like the Home Alones and the first Harry Potters. Totally all about the CGI in Harry Potters, but how you are compelled and brought in to that story as if you're on that journey.
In the early hours of Sunday morning, on a once insignificant wall, 3 secret agents appeared, listening into the phone box.
Okay, some of the cynics out there are going to say, oh yeah, filmmaking's easy to explain a story. Okay, let's take Banksy, for example, as an artist. If you don't know Banksy, then where have you been hidden?
In the human race, and we won't stop dreaming.
Now just look at his artwork. Look how much he captures your imagination with a painting on a wall, and how much his subjects in those pieces of work make you create a whole story in your head about what it is he's drawing. That is just talent. Now look at another artist, one of my favourites, this Lowry, who's from Salford. Again, Google him if you don't know. But look at the different stages of his life and how his mood affects his work. Look at his earlier work where he shows off Salford in its industrial state. He doesn't want to make people stand out, so he makes them all very, very similar. It's the scene, it's the dark industrial scene he's trying to get across. Compare that to his later life, where he suffered massively from depression after losing his mum, and how he then starts to look at doing portraits of like really dark subjects and brings them to light as if there's some sort of Halloween-esque portrait. The stories that you get from looking at these pieces of work are different than one another, but nonetheless compelling.
This is our world, and this is our time, and these are our plans. We're gonna let them shine.
Now,
This is
I went 10 years taking photos, the latter of that 10 years taking professional photos at weddings, without aiming to tell stories. That's just crazy. So first things first, I've realised, particularly in the artistic world, you need to set yourself some goals before you go out and take a camera or do a painting. For me, it's all about bodies of work. I took photos for 10 years with just hoping to get one amazing shot. It doesn't exist. For me, if you want to tell stories in photographs, you need to have that aim. Now, weddings aside, it's a little bit different. That's more documentary. You're trying to capture the moment and tell their stories in a certain way. This is more about my artistic vision of when I go out taking street photography or landscapes. You need to know what it is you're wanting to tell your audience before you even pick up your camera. Because if you don't, then you're just searching for a needle in a haystack. And it all comes down to one line. Whatever art we do, what is it that you want your piece of art to tell the world? So take this one for example, it's really interesting I feel. This is for my bodies of work shadows, and because I already had this bodies of work in mind, whereby I go and do street photography, and if you don't know, that's just usually photos in cities with people. And I wanted to portray messages with shadows as part of the subject. So this, for me, was the perfect one. I wanted to show you the difference between light and day, between good and bad, between high and low moods. And this person sat right perfectly on the corner of a shadow, just peeking out into the light with such an intense stare on the person that would just portray a real deep thought or real struggle with something going on in her own mind. But the way she was situated and the way that I managed to compose this image was to put the shadow in the picture to enhance that story, to tell a story of not just this person looking really interesting and in deep thought, but to tell a story of her struggles of coming out from the dark shadows and maybe battling to be more happy in the light of the day. And that's how I structured that picture. Now, people might watch this and laugh their head off and say, what the hell are you on about them? And I believe in that work. I would never have got that piece of work if I would have gone out that day not knowing I wanted to try and shape these types of stories. And that can be the same with whatever art medium you do.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you.
And the one other thing that I do an awful lot of, this is probably more for filmmaking because the inspiration is there, but that is, if you get inspiration from someone, then personally, you should be watching it twice, looking at it twice at least. So for me, my inspiration is clearly the guys I mentioned earlier in the video around filmmaking, but then also on YouTube, I get massive inspiration from the big players like Casey Neistat, for example, that people might laugh at that he's vlogging and it's reality TV, but that guy can tell a story to anybody amazingly well with a camera. And then you've got your others, your obvious ones like Peter McKinnon, blah, blah, blah. But what I mean is, you should always watch their work twice. Watch it for entertainment, great, and get inspiration. Watch it again and see what they do and learn from them. So if you're a painter, go and look at your famous paintings that you love and look at them from what you want to look at it, and then look at it again and see the why and ask yourself the questions. Well, why did he do it this way? So again, I'll go back to the painter that I loved, Lowry, and if you look at his earlier ways of working, he did it amazingly well of doing these stickmen like people, because he didn't want to detract from the scene itself. He didn't want to take your eye away from the fact that, say, this football ground here is about numbers. It's about all these people hoarding towards the football ground in this smoky, dark, wet world that is the north of England. If you just start to maybe put more details in the people, I might have started to lose the meaning of this photo. And this is the same for your work. You've got to then take inspiration from others, learn from them, and then take it into your own work with your own stories. I don't know whether that came across really preachy. It didn't need to be preachy. It just meant to be inspiring. Inspiring? I meant to inspire today, because everything I've said today is genuinely from like my bottom of my heart. This is what I believe. I really feel like this is how I learn, get inspiration, and do my own work. So I just hope you got something from today's vlog. I shall see you tomorrow. Doodles!